Hey YouTube, I'm Lucky, and last week's Nightfall was the Hollowed Lair, which offered the Mindbender shotgun, which is currently in the Crucible meta the most powerful energy shotgun. I made a PSA video alerting everyone that they need to go farm this Nightfall and try to get a god roll of the Mindbender's Ambition. It is extremely powerful for Crucible and probably will be for a very long time. In that video, which I will link in the description, I covered exactly what the god roll Mindbender is and what sort of other randomly rolled perks you were looking for to accompany it. But that wasn't enough. So many people came into my Twitch chat, twitch.tv lucky10p, and they kept asking me, well, what is this roll? Is this roll good enough? What if I got every single god tier perk except for the last perk? What if I got this roll? What if I got that roll? And they kept asking me on and on and on and on. And I answered so many comments in my Twitch chat to the point where I started to realize that I really need to make a video and I need to make a chart that will allow people to judge the quality of their Mindbender's Ambition, because even if you put in a ton of time, you may have never gotten the god roll. So after you've put in, let's say you put in 5 hours, let's say you put in 10 hours, whatever rolls you did get, let's say you got 5 rolls of the Mindbender, now you want to compare and contrast and judge which one is your best Mindbender's Ambition roll. And so to do so, I created a chart where I highlight and judge every single perk that can possibly roll on the Mindbender's Ambition. I tweeted it out and a lot of people were excited and happy to see this. This allowed them to make their judgments on whether or not their roll was a good enough roll or whether or not they wanted to continue to farm the Nightfall. You can no longer continue to farm the Nightfall this week. It may be available next week though, and it will be available in rotation in future weeks for certain. So if you didn't get a god roll Mindbender, you don't have to despair too much. It will come back, and when it does, make sure you watch this video and watch the other videos so that way you know exactly what rolls you're looking for on your Mindbender's Ambition. But of course, after posting this perk tier list, there was a lot of controversy. Some people think that some perks are misplaced or miscategorized. There was only a few particular perks that were definitely questioned by quite a few people, but I am going to make this video and I'm going to clarify why I rated each and every perk that is on the Mindbender's Ambition, so that way if you have seen this chart or if you plan on using this chart, you will know why each perk is rated in the category it was. So starting from the top of the perk tier list, and I will cover the curated roll after I've covered all these perks. Rifled Barrel is a god tier perk. It gives a plus 10 to range and minus 15 to handling. Handling isn't that big of an issue with Mindbender, especially if you have a quick draw roll, so getting the maximum range with a penalty that isn't actually that stifling is definitely worth it. Rifled Barrel is a god tier barrel option. The next one is Smoothbore. Now Smoothbore adds even more range than Rifled Barrel, so initially you might think, wow, this must be the best. My stats go up even further in range, but no. This increases the spread, which effectively works as a reverse shot package if there's any D1 players out there, and that is the exact opposite of what you want. This actually lowers the consistency of your one-hit kill potential for the shotgun, so you do not want to use this. If you do get this on your shotgun roll at all, make sure you use any other barrel option because all other barrel options are better than this one. The next one is Smallborn. It gives a plus 7 to range and a plus 7 to stability. Now stability is definitely not necessary for a Mindbender's Ambition, but a plus 7 to range is definitely a good perk and the second most range additional barrel you can get on your Mindbender, so I put that in the excellent category. Next up is Barrel Shroud, which gives a plus 10 stability and plus 10 to handling. Now giving a plus 10 to stability is almost a complete waste with Mindbender's Ambition, but the plus 10 to handling is not too bad, but definitely not nearly as powerful as getting range. When you're using a Mindbender's Ambition, you're looking for a one-hit kill at a very high range. The weapon fires at such a slow fire rate that it's almost imperative that the shot you fire is a one-hit kill, and if not, following up with a melee is the goal when using this weapon. The next barrel is Corkscrew Rifling, which gives a plus 5 to range, plus 5 to handling, and plus 5 to stability. I put this in the excellent tier because it does give you a boost to range and handling, which are very nice when using the shotgun. However, the stability is kind of a waste, and it's definitely not as much of a range boost as Rifled Barrel or Small Bore. But because there's no downside to this perk and it does hit on two of the more important categories, range and handling, I did give it an excellent rating. The last slot in the barrel option is Full Choke. Now Full Choke is an extremely powerful perk. It has been nerfed, but still is entirely in the god tier category because it adds a lot more consistency to your shotgun's one-hit kills. One of the most frustrating things when using a shotgun is firing a shot that you felt clearly should have killed the enemy, and that tends to not happen quite as much when you use Full Choke. The spread is a slightly bit tighter, which allows for the pellets to go in a slightly more predictable pattern. I do say slightly because it is very slight, but it is definitely a god tier perk. Now moving on to the magazine, the first and one of the most controversial one was I gave Assault Mag an average rating. A lot of people said this was unfair because increasing the fire rate of the shotgun is definitely very beneficial. However, I would argue that the Mindbender's Ambition fires at such a slow rate that even if you do add Assault Mag to it, it's still not optimal to fire this weapon twice. you're definitely looking more for shotgun melee finish. And if you don't get the shotgun melee finish, then you need to try to aim the shotgun a little bit better. Because if you're finding yourself consistently needing to fire 2 shots from the Mindbender's Ambition, you're using the weapon wrong. I'm telling you, you need to try to land a one-hit kill with this weapon. You need to maximize the range, focus on one-hit kill shots, and if anything, a shotgun melee to finish them off. The next 3 magazine options are appended mag, tactical mag, and extended mag. Now all of these increase the magazine and have different penalties. However, none of these are good. You do not need to increase the magazine size when using a Mindbender's Ambition. Again, it has a very slow fire rate. You will rarely ever run out of shots, and you would definitely have time to reload it, especially if you're using slide shot, which is one of the better perks on it. The next magazine perk is steady rounds, which gives a -5 to range and a +15 to stability. This is terrible. You do not want stability on the weapon in the first place, so to have a penalty to range, you do not want steady rounds on your weapon. Unfortunately, Curated is forced into having steady rounds, but you do not want this perk on your gun. If you have any other perk variation, unless you're using the Curated, if you won't have one, but if you have any other perk variation, definitely use it, because steady rounds is one of the worst perks you can use. Next up is Accurized Rounds, which gives a +10 to range. Now this is the best perk you can possibly get in the magazine slot. +10 to range with no penalty. This will help with that max one-hit kill potential. Accurized Rounds, part of your god roll. And the last one in the magazine slot is Light Mag, which gives a +5 to range and a +10 to reload speed. Now a +10 to reload speed isn't really that helpful, but it's better than nothing. And a +5 to range is definitely a helpful boost, and it's the only other range boosting perk in the magazine slot. So I gave this one an excellent rating. Moving on to the perk slots, we have Slide Shot. Now this is the best possible perk you can get. This has it all. Sliding reloads your gun and increases range and stability. This is the god tier perk. You definitely want Slide Shot on your Mindbender's Ambition. Next up is Threat Detector, which you might think, well, for a shotgun, this is an extremely powerful perk. Increased reload stability and handling when enemies are in close proximity. That's very helpful, because when you're shotgunning, enemies are often in close proximity. However, when you have that many targets in close proximity, it doesn't happen that often in the Crucible, and when it does, you're kind of fucked, because there's too many people and they will overwhelm you most of the time. Not to mention the perk is more situational. You have to have multiple enemies collapsing on you, and so you'll find that it won't consistently be there for you, like Slide Shot or Snapshot, which are passive perks that are always there and always apply to your shotgun. Which brings us to our next perk, which is Snapshot Sights. Now this is one of my favorite perks. I love to have this perk on all weapons because I love aiming down sights. Now a lot of people don't know, but having Snapshot on your perk is very helpful because all weapons have an intrinsic rangefinder. Aiming down sights increases the range, and it will increase the consistency of the pellet spread. So you want to, if at all possible when using a shotgun, make sure you aim down sights, and Snapshot will help you to aim down sights extremely fast. So I personally like this perk a lot. My personal rating would probably be god tier. However, for fairness sake, I'll put it in the excellent tier because Slide Shot is such a more powerful perk. I have to compare the two in that slot and say that Slide Shot is so much more powerful than Snapshot that I can't possibly put them both in god tier out of fairness. Now the last perk in that slot is Pulse Monitor, and it's auto reloads part of the magazine when wielder is critically wounded. This can be helpful, but again, it's situational and it's not nearly as powerful as Slide Shot or Snapshot, so this is definitely not the type of perk you're looking for. If you do get this on your Mindbender, it could still be a viable option if you had Quick Draw, but you're really looking for a better roll if you do have this perk on your weapon. Now on to the last perk slot in the final category. We have Rampage at the top. Now, Rick Kakis himself responded to my tweet saying that he demanded that I raise the rating of Rampage from average to excellent, and I said no, I would not do it. And my reasoning is not because Rampage is a bad perk, but Rampage is such an underwhelming perk in comparison to Quick Draw. Quick Draw is such a powerful perk for shotguns and for shotgunning. When you have your primary out and someone comes around a corner really fast and your radar just pops up because you let go of aim down sights and you see that red on your radar and you need to swap to your shotgun fast, that's when Quick Draw saves your life. That's when Quick Draw makes some really big plays for you, and Quick Draw cannot be undervalued on this weapon because it is without a doubt the most powerful perk in my opinion when using shotguns. So that covers why I gave Rampage an average rating, and that covers why I gave Quick Draw a god tier rating. Now on to the next one is Moving Target. Moving Target is actually a pretty good perk. Increasing your movement speed while aim down sights and target acquisition is kind of nice. However, this isn't really how you want to play when you're shotgunning. You're not wanting to aim down sights and strafe a bunch. That's not really the proper movement. Usually when you're shotgunning, you're wanting to slide around a corner. You're trying to stay mobile. You're trying to stay agile. You're not trying to slowly strafe around a corner. So the perk is a little bit counterintuitive to the natural playstyle of shotgunning. However, it's not necessarily a bad perk. You know, having an increased movement speed might help you to not get sniped in the head if you do slow strafe a corner while aiming down sights. And moving on to the last perk slot, auto-loading holster. Now this is a terrible perk. When holstering your shotgun, when pulling out your primary, essentially your shotgun will reload. This is not very helpful, especially when considering that that perk slot could be quick draw, which is extremely helpful and extremely consistent perk that allows you to both swap to your weapon faster, and quick draw does have an intrinsic snapshot built into it. It's not as powerful as snapshot, but it does allow you to aim down sights a little bit faster, which is why quick draw is such a powerful perk. Now, with all that being said, now you can take your role of Mindbender, whatever role you got, if you have 5 of them, if you have 10 of them, if you only have 1, and you can judge it based on this chart and based on this graph. And just for an example's sake, let's go over what the curated role has. It has rifled barrel, boom, that's a god tier perk. It has steady rounds, that is a terrible perk. It has opening shot, which is a god tier perk that only rolls on the curated role. You will not find that on a randomly generated role. And then it has rampage, which is an average perk. So that being said, the curated role is overall an average role of the Mindbender's Ambition, or maybe a lower excellent role. And that's it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed. I hope you take your Mindbender's Ambition and you compare it on this chart and let me know what sort of roles you get. Comment down below how good your role is, and if you have any questions or comments, let me know in the comment section below. I'm definitely interested and I'm open-minded in listening to any sort of criticisms of this chart. As I mentioned in my last video before, I spent 50 hours farming the Mindbender's Ambition, and that was back when you could farm it super fast. And so I have actually had tons and tons of different roles of this Mindbender's Ambition, and I have used every different perk under the sun, and I've tested a lot of these perks in private matches. So this is my chart for the Mindbender's Ambition, and I am extremely convinced that this information is very, very accurate. Let me know what you think though. Subscribe if you want more awesome content like this, and make sure to comment down below your role of the Mindbender's Ambition and how it rates on this chart. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Later.